Good evening. It is 7 o'clock on Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting of the Land Use and Building Management Committee of the Norwalk Common Council to order. With us tonight, we have Councilman Burnett, Councilperson Smith, Councilperson Hoovelman, Councilperson Ayers, and Councilperson Alterman. We have a quorum. Myself, of course, Tom Livingston. First item on the agenda is public participation. Has anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, this is Steve Edelman with my wife, Sally Edelman.
Actually, Steve, we have you on a separate item on the agenda, so we'll come back to you.
I apologize.
No problem.
Just call on us when you're ready.
We will. You'll be first after.
There is one member raising their hand to speak, Diane Lauricella.
Okay. Go ahead, Diane.
Good evening, Chairman Livingston and members of the committee and staff. For the record, my name is Diane Lauricella. Haven't spoken at this meeting in a while, but I felt in review of the agenda, I just wanted to leave some questions with you, and I would like to see them answered either tonight or soon. And that has to do with, of course, three items on the agenda. The first is with the Norwalk Public School, the truck commitment to alternative fuels. I think they could go back to the drawing board and try harder. I'd like to see them look at electric trucks. Other towns and states are utilizing them at the same level of work and power as is laid out here for the propane truck. So unfortunately, they're coming late to the party, again, related to energy management and the use of modern alternatives. I mainly want to look at the proposal with the Cranberry School and Norwalk High School related to PPA and the solar. My question is, has the Northeast Energy Partnership, which I had recommended you, Mr. Livingston and Mr. Lowe, get in touch with over maybe 3 years ago, they can help you make sure you optimize your solar potential, including the future of storage. You have Verigy right now. I think they have to, again, go back to the drawing board and take a look at optimizing, especially on Cranberry School. I do not see any canopy, solar canopy, and I do not see any ground mounted where there is room for it. I wanted to know what the percentage was of the demand of electricity, the energy need in Cranberry School versus the percentage amount that the solar will provide. In Norwalk High School, as many of you may have heard me, I am very pleased that we are considering solar canopy, but I don't think that goes far enough. I believe we can get up to over 60% of the school's total usage if one were to employ solar on the outbuildings. And please, I wanted to know, has the rooftop outdoor classroom been taken down? I asked Heidi Alterman why it was mentioned during the planning and zoning public hearing, and she said she didn't request it. And the thing is, in the time of climate change, it's going to be hardly used. It'll be too expensive to construct, and we could use that space for solar panels. When the teachers want to go up on the roof and point out for curriculum, they just have the children standing on a platform. They don't need an outdoor classroom on top that is covered and has all of the proper code of the heating and cooling. It is going to be too hot up there in most of the year that the children go to school. So lastly, I just wanted to know how much of a net zero energy school has this city tried to put together on each and every one of its school programs. I don't see it yet. I know they talk about it and they say why they cannot do it. I'd like to see us change our policies and look at how we can get to a net zero energy school immediately. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time now, but I wanted to please have someone answer, has NEP or Northeast Energy Partnership been looked at both of these projects? Have they been met with? Why is there no solar canopy and ground mounted in Cranberry? And has the rooftop outdoor classroom been canceled? And also, why aren't we utilizing the outbuildings in the Norwalk High School for solar and more canopies in other places where there is parking to get us above 60% solar? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laurentella. Is there anyone else signed up to speak? All right,
Nope, that's all that I see raising their hand. Sorry, Tom.
all right, thank you. Has any member of the committee received any correspondence they want to enter into the record at this point? Okay, thank you. I will close public participation and move to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion? Mr. Woolman, thank you. Any comments, changes, suggestions? Yes, David.
Can we change it so the record reflects that I joined that meeting at 7:55?
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as changed? Abstentions? And objections? Okay, so
I voted for. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay,
having delays. I voted for.
all in favor with one abstention for Mr. Burnett. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to old business. There is none. And then in terms of new business, the first item is to review a request from Mr. and Mrs. Edelman of 8 Sheffield Road to acquire city-owned property abutting their property. Why don't we, Alan, actually, before we go into this, do you want to introduce Joanne? I'm sorry, we should have done that right away.
Oh, yeah. As you can see,
Sorry,
Joanne's on
got
the
it.
screen. Joanne recently joined, probably about 6 weeks now, five weeks.
6 weeks.
Oh my God, that's too long.
She's
She
lasted
actually
that long, Alan.
I
Joined my
made it.
office. As you know, for a number of years, I've been here 40 years. And again, we're looking for a future. And I'm just speaking of one person operation. We have the building management side as well as the construction side, but continuity and all that is important. So the city has put money aside in operating budget to hire somebody on my staff, and we are lucky to have her on board. We went through interview process, and Joanne was willing to rough it out with us. So here she is. So she's been, and couple of projects that she's focusing on. One is a couple of years ago we approved money for bathroom renovation at the middle school, which is Nathan Hale, Roten, and West Rocks. And so she's actually focused on that project for this summer. And also I'm getting her up to speed on a number of things. And she also trying to understand the city system. Maybe you can say a few words about your experience with different things. So I don't have to say it.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you, Alan, and thank you, Tom. I am very excited to be on board. I look forward to working with many of you in the upcoming future. A little bit about my background and what's really wonderful about this position is that I get to help with my experience right off the bat. A lot of my experiences in construction and projects and facilities, and a lot with athletic facilities. So I can help out in that respect as well. So I thank Alan for getting me on board to start with smaller projects here just to get used to the systems and whatnot of the city of Norwalk, and I look forward to the larger ones that we have upcoming.
Well, great. We're very excited to have you and look
Thank
forward to working with you. Anybody have any questions at all for Joanne before we go into this?
Just welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you, David.
welcome.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, thank you. So let's
Yes,
move on to the-
welcome.
I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying, welcome. We met the other day.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yes.
So
right.
Alan Edelman's, you want to start this off?
Yeah, I think before Steve and Sally present their request, in the package, generally speaking, there's a map in there, a site plan showing their property and the property the city owned. The city acquired that property through a foreclosure, And basically the entire property is actually wetland. So with that, I'm gonna just leave it to Sally and Steve to explain what their request is.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for letting us speak to this group tonight. We appreciate it very much. So we live at 8 Sheffield Road, and as I look out my office window to the left is the wetlands lot immediately abutting our property. We have a corner of our backyard, which is wetlands, and then the entire adjoining property is the rest of the wetlands there. As we understand it, it is a completely non-buildable lot. As we further understand it from researching the records, because we just moved here in November from Arizona. So we were researching our own property and learned some of the history of the neighboring wetlands lot. Evidently was owned by a family that unfortunately did not pay their property taxes for a number of years. The city took over the lot in the last year or so. What we observed since living here at 8 Sheffield since November is the lot needs some love. It's not tended. It has had some trash left in it. Presumably well-intentioned people have blown their leaves across the street into it. It's kind of clogged. It needs some TLC. We look at it, we live next door to it. And if the city is willing to let us be custodians of this land, we would be up for that. We have had conversations with Alan Lowe and also with Tom Livingston about getting a modicum of testing done just to make sure that we're not, acquiring something that's, a Superfund site or something terrible like that. And we understand that some of that testing was already done actually yesterday because we met a couple of nice people who are taking water samples. So assuming that everything comes up positive, then we would be interested in proceeding down the path of us acquiring this lot and taking good care of it because we're highly incentivized to do that. It's literally right next door to us and we look at it. So that's our story in a nutshell.
I appreciate that. And I should say that Alan and I, along with Lisa Shanahan, went out to visit the Edelmans and looked at this spot. And it is, as I say, wetlands. It is unbuildable. It is neglected. I think it's a burden on the city to maintain. Not only that, it's not on the tax rolls, although it's not going to generate much tax revenue, but is really of no use to the city, Alan, correct? And on top of that, we looked into whether the land trust might take it, but I don't think they take properties of this size. Well, they don't take properties of this size. And so this seems to be a great solution for us as well, hopefully for the Edelmans. Alan, do you want add anything else? They mentioned the soil or the water sampling you're doing.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm not sure technical correction or not, but Steve talked about testing positive. Actually, you want to test negative.
Yes, thank you.
Just like COVID.
We actually, it's we look at, I think when we look at a piece of city property adjacent, when some adjacent property owner is interested in the property, it's first thing we as staff look at is the value of the property. And since it's all really truly wetlands, it's not like looks wet. It's actually like almost a brook that goes through it kind of thing. And and also I got the map that's in the package actually came from Conservation's office, so they do determine that it's a wetland already. So it is really no resale value and market value to anybody kind of thing. And also even they consolidate into their property, the lot would be bigger, but they still couldn't extend any kind of building construction onto that piece either way. So I think it's the city's interest to take this off our hands, because I think that it's not something that we are able to go out there and do regular maintenance on and maintaining the flow of the brook that goes through it kind of thing. So if they are very interested, we met with Steve and Sally, and they both appear to be very sincere about taking care of the stewardship of this property, and I think it's a good thing. So anyway, that's the staff perspective.
Any questions?
And the thing I want to add the process, in terms of process, so for something like this, we will not do appraisal on the property. But then the tax assessor at some point will look at it and put a value to this. So again, that's really for a tax perspective, and it's not under the jurisdiction of this committee to evaluate, because I don't know what they're going to do in terms of assessing a value on the property, but in terms of resale value, to generally speaking, there is no market value for this property. The process would be, we will schedule a public hearing for next month. We'll hold a public hearing, and thereafter we'll have to refer to Planning and Zoning Commission for Section 8-24 Connecticut statute review. And thereafter, if there's no significant comment, it go directly to the Common Council. If there's concern by the Planning and Zoning Commission, it will come back to this committee and then go through the full Common Council.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Can you please inform me what is the precedent for the city doing this, Mr. Lowe, with a citizen requesting this property? Is there some precedent in that?
It's not, the city does not own, the city does not own a lot of property. And usually when adjacent, most of the time it's adjacent property owner that there may be a little surplus area to level from a right of way or paper road kind of thing. Again, it depends where it's buildable, which means is that meets zoning requirement in terms of size and frontage. Then we typically would go for appraisal process, or we do some assessment of value, and then we will advertise it. But for this property, because it's all wetland, there's really no benefit for anybody to acquire this piece of property. In fact, like Tom says previously, that when another body that may be interested, it's a land trust, but they have indicated that this is too small for land trust. So there's really there's no real reason to go out and advertise this. But if the committee decide that we want to advertise, from a staff perspective, we don't need to advertise it, or we need to do a whole public hearing.
I'm not asking about the advertisement of the property. I was asking about precedent. Has the city done this before? That's number one. Number two, I think my concern is, and I'm sure that Mr. Steve and Sally are great people, but I'm a little uncomfortable. I know you're saying it's going to go to public hearing, but I'm a little uncomfortable with that process. I'm in wetland, and I feel a little differently than you, Mr. Allen, with wetland. I think wetland does have a value. I think wetland is very important to our whole ecosystem and all of that.
Hey, Nicole, you're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
better.
much better.
I'm so sorry. I'm at lacrosse with the little one, so I'm sorry.
It's better.
I do think there is some value. I do think there is some value to wetlands, but my concern really is, I know you're gonna make it publicly known that someone wants to purchase it. I just have some concerns about how well that is going to be, us not giving other people the opportunity, because I do think wetlands has value. I think I know it has value, and I know it's important to our overall ecosystem. So I think those are my concerns. One, the precedent, not if you think it has value, but the precedent. Has the city done this before? That's precedent. And two, the fact that we're kind of not giving other people the opportunity to go for it, I guess. I know it's convenient because it's adjacent to their current property, but I have to be honest, I'm a little on the fence with this.
So Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have sold properties to abutting homeowners before, maybe not wetlands, but other properties. We offer it to the neighbors first, correct? That's been our practice?
Yes, that is a practice to, I mean, we definitely, I can't name anything off the top of my head, but it is although we don't have a lot of property to do this, but at the same time, it's just come up before when a required property, adjacent property owner asking for a portion of the property. Sometimes it could be a landlocked piece of property. In the old days, there's zoning regulation, a certain area called park kind of reserves. when the project, the community got little, like multiple units get developed, they got to reserve some space for park. And a lot of time they keep the wetland as the parks reserve. We had get rid of those property before. Again, sometimes these property has some dry areas, so that when you add it to another piece of property, potentially there's a possibility of subdivision. But here, because all of it's on the wetlands, I don't see that. But that's an interesting perspective, because what happened, we got this from foreclosure. So when the people didn't pay taxes before, at that point, the property is up on foreclosure as part of all the foreclosure property. So it was public notice before. If somebody wanted to buy it, they did have somebody could have an opportunity to bought this property before, because there's really no market value. So that's nobody offer any money to acquire that piece of property. That's how we end up with it. So so in a different kind of way, it actually been offers for public opportunity to purchase property when the city, because nobody offered any money for it, we end up with it. So I think in a way this went through a process somewhat.
Alan, when was that? Do you know?
I thought it was like maybe 2 or 3. I don't want to speak on it. I think I have a deed in the office somewhere. I think you gave it to me, Steve.
Hold that thought. I'll look it
Maybe
up. Talk about something else for a moment.
Okay.
2018 or something like that.
I have the document, so
Okay.
it'll just take me a moment to find it.
All right, let's, Greg, you had a comment for?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Livingston. My comment is basically, will we have something in writing stating whether this piece of property has any value at all, or if there's no value before we go to a public hearing? Because right now we don't, at least I haven't seen any document that indicates the value, if any, of the property. I guess requesting we get something in writing before we have a public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about no value, it's really just coming from me as staff. So if you want that, we have to go out and get an appraisal done.
We have the tax assessor, right?
Yeah, but there's a value in it. There's things like $50,000 kind of thing. But again, that's the reason why people didn't pay taxes on it. So if the committee is interested in value, then I have to go out, get an appraisal on the property. I think that's the only way I can do this.
Yeah, I just found the date on which the wetlands lot was put up for a notice of sale. It was October 18, 2021.
Oh, so
So a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Just to follow up, wouldn't we have, if it was put up for sale in 2021, shouldn't we have some current document without having to incur additional expense for appraisal now that might have state what the value is?
We did. I mean, it was foreclosure, so it's because they didn't pay taxes, right? So I don't think we would do an appraisal. But let me talk to our tax assessor's office and see what kind of information is available to the city. But chances are, again, when somebody doesn't pay taxes, I don't think we go out to do appraisal. I think when we put all that package, all those properties together, and we do a tax sale, and if nobody purchase it, the city go for a process to acquire the property or end us up with the property. And I don't think the city would spend money doing appraisal for a property that somebody else may buy, you know, or we end up with it. So, but I'll find out. But most likely there was not an appraisal done.
David.
Well, if they were in arrears, there's going to be whatever the 75% of whatever the value was at the time, whether it had gone up in the last reval or not, we wouldn't know. But if it was 2021, there's going to be some documentation of what the tax was based on. So we should at least know that to have an idea of some sort of value, to assign a value to the property for an acquisition. But didn't we just recently do this at Scribner and Chestnut Hill? We sold that triangle. We went through, now that was buildable. That was a buildable lot, but it, you know, you had a conversation with the other neighbors of the individual who was interested.
We got appraisal done on that property.
We've done this And we did it, we've done this a couple of other times, so I think there's, there is a system at play. Whether we have to do a full, get a brand new appraisal is a question mark there, but I think we can find out at least what it's, where it was at when it went into arrears to be sold in the tax sale.
So how do we value this?
It's really, if, again, I think, tax assessor put numbers on it, assess value kind of thing. I don't know how much. I guess if people don't pay taxes and don't challenge the appraisal, I mean, then that's the number one, they don't pay taxes. So I'm not sure the assessed value, it's true in the sense that because the property owner probably didn't challenge it, because I'm not going to pay tax on a piece of wetland. So, so I think the only way to do it is to hire appraiser to do the appraisals to see what they come up with. It's very subjective. I mean, what is the value to somebody? I don't think for a piece of wetland, I don't think anybody would go out and buy a piece of wetland. So what is the market value?
Steve and Sally, what are you thinking on this?
We agree with Alan. The reason that we're interested in acquiring this lot is not that we have a burning desire to be the owners of a non-buildable lot. It's that we'd like it to be taken care of because it's literally right outside of our window. And we understand that it's a burden on the city. It generates no property taxes and it's wetlands. It needs some maintenance. And it's clearly not getting that. I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. It's just what we've observed since we've lived here. So it needs things and it's a financial drain on the city's resources. We are incentivized to take care of it because we've got some wetlands on our own lot anyway. And well, we look at it. So I can't imagine that anyone else would want it. And, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. This lot was up for anybody to bid on a year and a half ago, and evidently no one did, which is why it's a city property. So I get the idea that wetlands have value, but it seems to me that they have value only in the eye of the beholder, and no one beholds that value realistically except us, and it's only because it's right next door to us. So we're willing to take on the burden of a fragile ecosystem because we care about that. We're environmentally conscious, and we're pleased to be abutting a fragile area, but it does need to be taken care of, and that's going to be a burden to someone. It's either going to be the city's burden, as it now is, or we'll take it on if the city is willing to let us. But those are really the only options, because that was tested a year and a half ago, it seems.
And Tom, Lisa already said that they would be willing to help us, help guide us for, our stewardship of that area.
Right. Ms. Harris.
So if the common language in this meeting is about the devalue or the less value of this property, how do we exchange the property? We're not going to give it to them. The city's not going to give them the property. So we are going to put, per se, a price on that. So how are we doing that? And I'm really asking for information. If it was a piece of property, but we're putting a price on it. So how are we putting a price on it? If it's just, we're not giving it, the city can't give a citizen land. So how are we putting the price tag on it?
Alan?
Well, I was actually thinking about the city I was thinking that the city would consider giving the property to them.
You want to give them the property? Oh.
Well, it's no use to the city and it costs us money to maintain. But I think there clearly has to be a public hearing. I mean, by law, and I think by practice. So Barbara,
Yeah, I guess, okay, at this point, I think the best way forward, Alan, is to try to determine some value from the tax assessor. Because I think it's important that we just know that, and then take it through the public hearing process.
we just lose Alan? We can't lose Alan.
I know, I think he just went away.
We lost Alan.
That
Uh-oh.
can't be. We're lost without Alan. I think we do need to know what we're talking about. The question is, can we go ahead with the public hearing without having that? Okay,
Yeah, I think we need some sense of value before we have the public hearing.
hold on, let's see. David, if you want to say something.
Can I just also add, sorry, Dave.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me just finish up. I just really just want to add, just to thank the Edelmans for their, their interest in this and the offer of stewardship. I know I see this, it's a very small piece of property, not buildable at all. And I just think it's a very noble effort on your part. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you, David.
No, just that I agree with Ms. Smith. I mean, I thank you for what you're asking, but I think that if whether it's a sale or we're giving it away, we have to understand what the value is of that piece of property before we have a public hearing so the public can weigh in. I think that's important, because there may be someone, it may draw someone out who may see value and want to voice how they feel. And I think that's important, and we have to understand what that value is, because there's another truth, which is who knows 15, 20 years from now, whether that's still classified as wetlands, whether something shifts from an ecology standpoint, whether that becomes buildable, or there's a change in zoning, a change in code. That's far-fetched ideas, yes, but the reality is we have to think about that, as again, value. What is value? Because it is an accession to value. It's value that you would be receiving in some way. So I think that has to be known before you have a public hearing and we decide which way.
Thank you. Alan just called. He lost internet. He's going to try and call in, but I agree with that. So I agree with all that. So I want to thank you, Steve and Sally. I think we need to, I guess we need to have that value, Steve. I mean, David, before we move forward, whether it's $0 or $1 or something else, I think we need to know what we're doing. Heidi? Well, hold on a second.
Hi, I just wondered quickly if maybe we could be in touch with a group like Keep Norwalk Beautiful or something that can help to maintain the property while we're figuring this out, because it is, I think, really generous that they've just been doing it, right? They live across from it, they look at it. I can see you guys, you seem like genuine people. So if there's a way that any of us can connect with one of the groups that sort of does provide public services for area in Norwalk, if that might be beneficial just while we figure out how to manage this.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, the land trust has been notified and involved. I don't know how involved they are now, but it's certainly something worth discussing. And we have no Alan. Okay, so I think the conclusion is, yes, Steve.
Tom, I was just going to say, it's not our lot, but we are right next door. You're all welcome to come out and see it for yourselves. Obviously, Tom did that, and I gather it was a valuable experience. We have no ulterior motive. We simply want the neighboring lot to be well taken care of, whether by us or the city or someone else. So if it would help inform your views about the value of the lot, come on by. It's a swampy little lot.
Yeah, I will echo that. It really was worthwhile for me, and and these guys aren't far from me, to see it, because you do realize that it is clearly not buildable by any stretch of the imagination. Actually, there is a tree that is leaning that could possibly create liability for the city if it falls on their house. I mean, that's just a side issue, but
Let's not discuss that.
no, definitely not.
We just moved here, for goodness sake.
Yeah. But listen, I don't want to keep you guys you guys any longer than we have to. I don't think we can do anything more right now without Alan, but I will get back to you. We really do appreciate your offer, and I believe it is very sincere, and we thank you for that. And let us come back to you after we've had our further discussion, but I guess that's it for you tonight. Let you know.
Terrific.
All right.
Thank you all
again.
very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Joanne, you might be in charge.
I know he's throwing me right in, isn't he?
This was all a trick.
Yeah.
So I guess let's hope he's going to join us, but I think we can keep moving. Item B is to review the bid for replacement of a Norwalk Public Schools truck and refer the following to Common Council for action. A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Gabrielli Truck Sales in Milford for the purchase of a rack body truck to replace a decommissioned Norwalk Public Schools truck for a total not to exceed $95,991, account noted. And B, authorize the MPS Facilities Department to issue additional charges for the rack body truck for a total not to exceed $9,599, account noted. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett, thank you. I guess this is you, Bill. We don't need Alan.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the practice of utilizing propane for the vehicles associated with the NPS started a number of years ago, at which time they entered into a contract with a different bus fleet, and all the buses you see today traveling around Norwalk are propane powered. That was a big win, and it's been very effective. About a year later, my department facilities needed a new box truck, at which time we went out to bid and we purchased a propane powered box truck in year 2000. That has been working very efficiently with very little breakdown, actually no breakdowns, but we've been servicing on the scheduled maintenance, and that gets us around the city very effectively and works well. It's a high-powered box truck. You may have seen it's big white truck. So the next truck we need to replace badly is the rack body. It's more of a utility vehicle, and the current rack body is off the road. It is 19 years old, and it's been decommissioned, and it's not even safe to drive. So what we have here in front of you is a replacement of that vehicle in a propane-powered truck, the way we've been following for a number of years now, or years ago now. The issue we're currently faced with is the truck that fits our needs is not available for the propane package at this time due to changes in the EPA regulations. So a few years ago, when we bought the box truck, the EPA regulations were different. Now they've changed. So we're in a dire need of a new truck. Therefore, the goal is to purchase the truck and have it gasoline powered. It would be outfitted with hardened valves and pistons to allow the upfit to a propane powered vehicle. And once that's available, and it may not be for a year, we will convert this truck from gasoline powered to propane powered, and it'll be consistent across the NPS vehicles.
So Bill, a couple things. Does this money include the conversion cost in it?
The conversion for our last truck was $16,000. We expect this might be $16,000 to $18,000 range.
Is that part of this money, or is something you'd come back for more?
That would be separate from this money, yes.
Okay. And did you look at other vehicles, like electric vehicle at all?
From the power we are looking for, we have been told that it is not available in electric power.
Okay, thank you. Barbara.
Yeah, Bill, can you just describe exactly what the uses of what do you use this particular truck for? How necessary is it to the district?
Oh, sure. It's a heavy duty truck. We have supplies going around to all the schools. We have some heavy equipment, boiler parts, boiler sections, operating equipment. We're also outfitting this with a salt spreader, just to get a heads up from the DPW before they get to some of our parking areas where we can pre-salt. And it's also coming with a snow plow. So this is a real heavy duty use for this vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Heidi? Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you. Alan's
Thank
back,
you.
I think. Thanks, Bill. Alan, you're back? By phone? Well, I see his number. Anyway, it was. I'm gonna propose we defer the school construction update and go get to the right other items because I know Heidi has to leave and I think let's move these on. Okay, so move to C2, update on solar projects at Cranberry School, Norwalk High School, and South Norwalk School, and refer the following to the Board of Education for the execution of a power purchase agreement with Verigy for Cranberry School and Norwalk High School in the future. A, approve a proposed plan for the installation of rooftop solar for the new Cranberry School project and refer the plan to the Board of Education for approval and execution of a power purchase agreement with Verigy, the city's designated solar developer. Current project financial pro forma is for reference only. Final pro forma will be adjusted to reflect the applicable energy incentives, updated electric rates, and the final system design with corresponding construction costs. And B, approve proposed plan for installation of rooftop solar and carport solar for the new Norwalk High School project and refer the plan to the Board of Education for future in 3 to 4 years. Approval and execution of a power purchase agreement with Verigy, the city's designated solar developer. Current project financial pro forma is for reference only. Final pro forma will be adjusted to reflect applicable energy incentives, updated electric rates, and final system design with corresponding construction costs. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Ms. Smith. Okay, Katie, we still have Alan, are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Huh?
yes,
Oh, good.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Let me go briefly and then talk about Cranberry a little bit, and then Dan is going to go for Norwalk High School.
Hey, Alan, before you do, just to close out the Edelmans, I think the consensus of the committee was that we need some sort of valuation before we go to public hearing.
Very
So,
good.
All right,
Got it.
so come back to that next meeting.
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
Alan, would you like me to share the Cranberry slides that we prepared that were part of the agenda?
Okay, sure. I still don't have internet access, so I'm doing it with my phone, so I won't be able to see it anyway. So, okay.
We will.
Yeah, but you will. So, probably around 7 years ago, I think we went through a process to go through a selection process to designate a solar developer for City of Norwalk. And at the time, we went through a whole selection process, RP process, selected a company. And it's a very lengthy process, and even through approval and also negotiation of power purchase agreement, basically release the system from a developer. They put it in the city building and release it for a 20-year period. Through that agreement, through that process, we did 3 buildings. We, together with Board of Education, the city go through this process. At the end of the day, the power purchase agreement is executed between the Board of Education and the solar developer. The purpose of this so that because we are able to capture tax credit by having the solar system owned by a private company, and also the city do not put up capital funds for the construction of solar system. So for this process, we completed. And again, together with Board of Education, we completed Naomi School, Bonus School, and Jefferson School. Since we did 3 schools, we last year decided to go through the process another time, one more time for RFP process. And through this process, interviews and selection process, we came through this committee, and we designated Verigy as the company that we want to work with for next 3 school, which is Cranberry, North High School, and South North School. Regarding Cranberry School specifically, by the time we issue the RFP for a new solar developer, generally speaking, the process has started already because the school started construction in the spring of last year, and by the time we secure this relationship with Verigy, it's last fall. So the previous developer provided us technical assistance when we start working on the design of this solar portion of design for Cranberry School. And as they were looking at Jefferson School, we evaluated carport system, and based on the size and location, everything else, it was determined that it wasn't feasible at that time. So we also asked them to look at Cranberry at that time. They also determined that the carport system is not feasible financially, but they recommended that we do the rooftop system. And with that, we determined the loading capacity, the potential path of conduit runs from the roof to the electrical room and all that. So the project was designed with anticipation that we do a solar system on the roof. Since with this arrangement with Verigy, they had completed design, and that's what in front of the committee tonight. And all the conduit runs has been put in already, and Verigy has also submitted a request on behalf of the city to the Eversource for incentive money, and the whole performance is being developed. What you see on the screen is actually the latest number that we got from Verigy. So I think Katie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, maybe you can go through the layout and design a little bit so that if everybody has a little more detail of. I think at the end of the day, I think within 20 years, the savings is around $200,000. Can you go through the calculation and how it's calculated and the basis of the calculation?
It's also
Sure.
very hard to read, by the way. Maybe you can make it bigger, Dan.
Yeah, if Katie, there's something you want me to focus on, that you, as you're
go.
explaining, just let me
Yeah.
know. I'll try my best.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. So the system is designed at a 200 kilowatt DC system size. If you go to the layout, Dan, what it'll show you is where we're proposing to put the modules. We're planning to use 545 watt modules, which are really the highest density, currently available, top of the line for the marketplace. What that allows us to do is, maximize the production output that's expected for the system. So for this site, we're anticipating 181,210 kilowatt hours year one as the anticipated kilowatt hour production for the array. You want to go to the third page, and Dan?
Hey, Katie, before you do,
Yeah.
it looks, if you look at that scheme, the image of the rooftop, it looks like there is other space that, that could be suitable for panels. Could you explain why those aren't used?
Yeah, so it's a few things. Number one, you have RTUs up on the roof that we're working around. Second thing is being able to fit a full string of panels in various sections of the roof.
RTU.
And then the third is, as you can see here, you have some lower roof sections that are going to be impacted by shading. It's kind of a combination of those three items. And we worked with our engineering team on putting this layout together.
So you've maximized the space for panels. I mean, the number of panels in the space, I should say.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can someone just explain what an RTU is, please?
Rooftop unit, right? That's HVAC.
Rooftop units.
Oh, thank you.
Rooftop. Yeah, no worries.
Sorry.
So what you see here on the screen is just the financial pro forma that Alan mentioned. So this was submitted as part of our package. Basically, what it runs through is the system production on an annual basis, years 1 through 20. So we're starting out again at 181,200 kilowatt hours in year one. System will slightly degrade on an annual basis and produce just a little bit less in year two than it did in year one. So we're factoring that all into the financial analysis for you. The PPA rate that we would be locking you into is 8.75 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's a fixed rate contract for the next 20 years. Went back and forth with Alan, and he had provided some feedback in terms of current supply costs that the city is under for generation of power, factored in your transmission and distribution charges, and we're estimating your current cost of electricity at about 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's going to net you a savings of 2.75 cents for every kilowatt hour that your system is generating. As you
And-
can,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I was just gonna mention, Alan mentioned the cumulative savings here, which is $203,681.
Right, and I just want to point out that that's based on the term of the PPA of 20 years, but we hope and presume the units, well, the panels have life beyond that, maybe, right?
Correct. So they're actually warranted for. Go ahead.
Go ahead, you go.
The panels themselves are actually warranted for production through year 25, and the expected useful life is about 35 years. So there's definitely anticipated production beyond the 20-year PPA term.
And the challenge is that we put in this on the new roof. The roof is probably a 25-year warranty. So as time go by, there's a possibility at some point, hopefully we get to 30-year on a 25-year roof. But you know, it's very interesting because when we get a roofing warranty for 25 years, a lot of times, we start having problems at year 20, sometimes even in the teens. But in any event, I think at some point when we replace the roof, the system will probably go off the roof. By the time we do that, chances are the technology is going to be very different, and chances are we won't be putting the same panel back in. But in any event, I think there is a reasonable calculation that we can do. I think we do it for Norwalk High School. We didn't do it for this one yet, but for Norwalk High School, we actually because of the copper system, we actually calculated for like 30 years. So for the from year 20 to 30, all the savings go directly to the city. So those numbers are substantially higher for the future years past the 20-year PPA period. So we can do that calculation as well. But it would be a substantially more than the $200,000. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, Alan, you want me to move into Norwalk High School?
Yeah, please. And if you can go through it, explain the building and the two systems that we're looking at.
So first, we got a quick rendering provided by Castle Boost, the architect on the project, showing the entrance elevation of the school from the parking lot. And we'll jump right into the solar design for the project. And these estimates and design were provided by Verigy and used in a recent Castle Boost presentation. What we're showing here is the kind of what the design would be, maximizing the roof area, the annual building energy usage, which is 3.9 million kilowatt hours, the annual roof system output, 1.298 kilowatt hours. And here we're showing a roof system percentage of 33% of the annual building energy usage. Next, we show a similar cash flow pro forma model as what we just looked at. This is something that Verigy has put together for us. And we've added a couple items here, understanding that at the end of this PPA period, there is a buyout estimate based on the fair market value at that time, which is estimated right now as $514,000. But over the 20 years of that rooftop solar system, there's an anticipated savings of just under $3.3 million. And then in year 21, if that solar system is purchased for the 514, that year, we're looking at roughly a $2.78 million total savings. But we haven't dragged this understanding that roofs are typically replaced somewhere after the 20-year period. Most have a 25-year warranty. And as Alan stated earlier, the system may be removed sometime after 20 years. We just have a note here that based on the annual savings, understanding that the PPA covers maintenance throughout these years of the PPA agreement, you're looking at approximately a $300,000 a year savings in utility costs if we were to purchase the system in the 21st year and continue generating power with the solar panels that are on the roof. And just another note here that, like I just mentioned, that $300,000 a year doesn't have an estimate accounted for the maintenance or the utility delivery and transmission costs, which those are all covered as part of the total PPA values. And moving from the roof, similar explanation of the solar carports. Here we're showing the solar carport design on 3 rows of the parking lot. And again, the annual building usage, 3.9 million kilowatt hours. The system as shown here, producing 728,000 kilowatt hours. That percentage is 18% of the building energy use. And then the combined roof and carport systems percentage is 51% of the total energy usage for the building, anticipated annually. And we will jump to the cash flow for the carport system. This one is a little different, understanding that after the 20th year, there is a buyout, but there is no roof replacement. So the PPA costs go away at that point. Noting it again that this doesn't account for maintenance costs or utility delivery and transmission costs after that 20-year period. But over the 20 years of that carport system, the estimated savings is almost $1.3 million. In the 21st year, we're showing here the estimated buyout value at $391,000. So that year, it shows it as a negative, offset from the utility cost, the cost to buy out, and that is the difference between the two values. But after that point, over those next 10 years with the carport system, there's an anticipated $1.6 million in savings. And at the bottom, we have a value for over the total 30-year life of that system, the estimated savings without accounting for maintenance and utility delivery and transmission costs over the final 10 years is just below $3 million. And as we've shown in previous presentations, there is an example of what the underside of these carports look like. And then the next couple of slides, there's some additional information that Verigy has put together for us. And this is showing at this point, the increased benefit over the past year from 2022 to 2023, based on the utility rates that we were seeing in January to June 2022, right around 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And currently, the utility rates have gone up over 110% to 23 or 21 cents per kilowatt hour. Another slide prepared by Verigy is showing the what you would be paying today based on kilowatt hour, and then what you would be paying with a PPA based on today's rates. And this was prepared specifically for the Norwalk High School rooftop solar only. So I've added some notes here that reference back to the values provided on the previous slides. The carport solar energy generated is 728,000 kilowatt hours. And then the combined solar being generated with both systems would be just over 2 million kilowatt hours. And as we jump down here a little further, the PPA year one savings with the rooftop only, $111,000, carport, $33,000, and then combined, the first year savings between the two systems is $144,000.
Dan, is that just an example? Because those numbers don't match what we're talking about, right? That's, I mean, the 1298 doesn't match either the carport or the roof.
It should.
Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry. That's the rooftop? That was what it was?
Yeah, that was the 1298 is the rooftop.
Oh,
and
got
that
it. Okay,
slide-
I thought it, okay. I got it.
And that slide was prepared only for the roof system by Verigy. And what I've done here is I've added the notes so that we can, similar to what we've done here, showing the combined percentages, we understand the two
I got it. Yeah,
being combined, what those total values are.
great, thanks.
And that is what we have for the solar presentation this evening.
If you can give us back our screen. Any questions, comments? Ms. Ayers?
I would like to say thank you. I think this is very impressive. And I think it's very, you've done a wonderful job integrating the solar. I just want a follow-up question, actually. The public speaker mentioned something about a rooftop classroom or the removal of the rooftop classroom. Does anybody have any information, additional information, clarity about that comment?
Yes, can you guys hear me? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't mean
you're
guys.
back.
Sorry about that. Mrs. Lowe is the IT coordinator, figure everything else for me, so I'm back. Yeah, the rooftop, I guess we don't call it classroom. What do we call it? It's no longer as part of the project. We actually identified two locations on site. That's going to be the right near the front of the building. There's two areas that initially was a landscape area, but we actually further developed it. Dan, would you happen to have those drawings? When Dan gets it, we can put it up so we can answer your question in more detail. We identified two actual locations on the ground level because we agree the rooftop area is kind of expensive to do. And also it's kind of limited access on the rooftop, and security is also a concern. So we want an area that's more visible and that's also at ground level. So again, I think if Dan could find them, then we can pull it up, but I don't want to hold everybody up on to.
Yep. Just give me one
Got it?
minute. I will find it. You want to see the
two
learning?
Yeah. They don't call it classroom. What do they call them?
I'm sure it's on this plan. If you give me one moment. Let me get to the
We're no
slide.
longer doing the rooftop. So I think I answered, Nicole, I hope I answered your question.
Oh no,
Yeah.
because I was flabbergasted. I was like, "Ooh, I must have missed one. I know they go through a lot of drafts. I thought I missed something, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't completely losing my mind.
Alan, I assume this is what you'd like to see, correct?
Yeah, right. So
Okay.
yeah, originally it was a rooftop on the third floor kind of thing. We had limited options, and we actually looking at these two areas, 1 and 2. For ground level, we are doing landscaping and create a space. I think one of them is a little more detail on it. So there are two different areas that we're looking at.
But the bottom line is they're not on the roof.
It's not on the roof. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burnett?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Livingston. I guess my question is really of clarity. So what we are approving, are we making the final approval tonight, or is our approval contingent on receiving the final pro forma and associated numbers?
I think what we have in front of you, it's the latest numbers we have, but it may change as we move forward. And it's subtle changes. It's not something that, especially Norwalk High School. Norwalk High School is a project that we are not, these are just projected numbers. In fact, some of the numbers based on projected in a sense, but actually it's today's energy costs. So by the time the Norwalk High School project gets submitted, will be probably 3 years from now. When Verigy together with the city apply for incentive money and also tax credits. So those numbers will change substantially. So we don't know what the incentive money will be in 3 years. So there will be substantial change. But in terms of design, this is what we're designing to as a school building committee. We want to look at it, understand what we're doing, because as we went through the special permit process, the Planning and Zoning Commission made a very strong point to the city that copper solar is important in terms of design. So we are incorporating it. So we just want to go through this committee to approve that we are taking that seriously, and we are incorporating copper solar as part of this project. But the final financial aspect of it won't happen to 3 years from now. But we are continuing with design and construction, and we are scheduled to start construction of site excavation and stuff end of this year. So it's important for the committee to review this and then approves it and forward to the Board of Education. Again, for Norwalk High School, the approval is 3 years from now. So the number will change.
Just as a follow-up, I mean, I would think Cranberry numbers are much closer to being realistic with Cranberry opening soon. So should we be approving these separately with the understanding that the numbers we see now for Cranberry are probably very close to the final pro forma, and Norwalk High, you know, we might see a much further update 3-4 years from now?
Yes, I think, Katie, can you comment on the Cranberry numbers?
Yeah, the numbers that you see in front of you are the final figures. So that's all based off of the incentive that was submitted for, and we anticipate awards coming out, locking in the funding, the incentive.
But we haven't
funding.
got approval from the Eversource yet, because we submitted bid number. So
That's correct.
Do they actually adjust it, or do you actually approve at that number that we submitted?
So they would approve the figure that it's submitted. So it's all based off of the rate class, and because you guys are new construction, it gets submitted as rate class 30, which is a benefit. You actually get a bit of a higher incentive as part of the project. So that was submitted, just so everybody knows, February 1st, and we would anticipate awards on or around April 14th. So it should be within the next 2 weeks that we'll hear back on the incentives.
So Alan, why don't you talk a little about why you brought the Norwalk High one here, because it's important to you in the design.
Yeah, we understand this is an urban site. The city of Norwalk it's an urban situation. So we have limited land. Even the building itself, this is a 3 to 4 story building. So if you have land, if the city has land, the building will be much more horizontal. You got much more square footage on the roof and site to put solar system. Because our building is more vertical, our square footage on the roof is limited to what we have on a 3-story buildings, and like a 2 or 3 or single story building. So I think a lot of community, whether it's like in suburbs and stuff, when they have when they're building like 300,000 square foot of high school, they can spread it out, and so you can achieve higher generation based on the footprint of the building. For us, because we are, again, I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, a 3-story building, our square footage is much smaller footprint. So therefore, our ability to get higher numbers is much more difficult. In any event, so the reason why we want to go for approval now is so that we are continuing the design process. We are committed to do this. At the same time, is that we are engaging the design team to design the building electrical system to support this. So we don't have opportunity to change it in the future once we decided on this. So again, it affects the whole electrical design of the building, the switches and everything else, the gears and all that stuff. So that's why it's important to do it now. And then by the time comes, again, the incentive rate would be different, and utility rates. I mean, the electric rate is based on, I forgot what it's based on, but it's 17 cents. In 3 years, it could be 20 somewhat cents, right? I mean, right now, I know the residential rate, I think everybody at home, you're probably paying like 24 cents. The city right now is different rates because we locked in certain rates. So it's still different, but in 3 years from now, those rates are different. So the calculation would be potentially even more financial benefit to the city 3 years from now.
Well, Alan, why don't you also talk about the carport solar timing and why that's important now?
Yeah. There's a number of things that's important because the parking lot itself is very complicated. Even though we're building a new building separate without touching the existing building, we're going to spend 3 years in construction of a new building. After that's finished, then we're going to move the kids, the students into a new building. At the same time, we need to keep the parking lot open. So we don't have ability to actually go into the parking lot and start ripping it out. So we got to maintain the parking lot to be open. So while we tear down the building, where the building footprints is, we can build a parking lot and put the solar panel on copper system on that portion of the parking lot. We had to look at construction phasing and how conduit, where the conduit runs is, and drainage system. We also have a stormwater retention system in the parking lot. So a lot of things have to be considered. So the configuration, the size of the copper solar system has a lot of thoughts behind it in terms of where, how much, and timing, and construction phasing. All of that gets into the evaluation process. So it's not something we decide to solve. We just do this much or that much. There's a lot of thoughts behind it. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, just to follow up on my question. So for Cranberry School, should the wording of the approval change? Because we have seen the final pro forma, if I'm correct. So it states that, there'll be changes, but I think it was just stated by Katie that what we have seen is the final. Is that correct?
I heard you say that you don't have the incentives locked in yet. Is that right, Alan? Or Katie?
Yeah,
Well,
so
the incentive hasn't been approved yet. So
just to provide some context here, if it's helpful, the incentive has not been awarded. They were all grouped and submitted February 1st, which was when the queue opened. We're expecting them within the next 2 weeks. If we're not awarded the incentive for the project, we do have the opportunity to resubmit in the next utility incentive auction, which is going to take place August 1st. And the value of the incentive would be the same. So you have a second chance to submit if we don't win it in this go around. But I anticipate your application went in. I think you're in good shape. If not, we'll resubmit it in August and be able to lock it in at the same value. So your overall PPA rates won't shift. The utility has already said that they're locked in for the next utility auction based off of your request. So I don't know if that's helpful, but just providing some more context there in terms of timing.
yeah, this is kind of a very interesting relationship between the city and the Board of Education. The Board of Ed is going to be executing a power purchase agreement. The reason being is that they are the one that paying the electrical bill and as well as paying Verigy. That's why it's important for Board of Ed to because they're paying out of the operating budget. At the same time, the Common Council, generally speaking, I'm going to say this, but I don't know how everybody's going to. I don't think we have the ability to direct the Board of Education to sign a specific agreement. We cannot, I don't think we are in the position to authorize them to sign an agreement. I think we are referring to them to sign an agreement. So the final terms of it, whether it's minor changes and stuff, I think it's up to them to evaluate and look at. So I will continue to participate in the process of Verigy and Board of Ed to make sure that these numbers they're proposing doesn't change drastically. But if there's any minor adjustment, I think we want to be ability to leave in some room to make any adjustment that necessary as we move forward. For some reason, there's like we got to take out 4 panels or something because or add 4 more panels. It gives us the Verigy the ability to make adjustment because we find that the shadow of the mechanical unit turned out to be is not as bad as it seems. They're getting more panel, so that's why I don't think we want to lock in exactly what those numbers are. But at the same time, is that I think the referral is not to be that specific because there are potential some minor changes here and there.
Okay. Barbara?
Thank you so much for this work around the solar carport and taking it seriously. So I have a question. I'm looking at, we only have one view under the carport. The posts look really sturdy. And so my questions are kind of around, one, will this be designated for staff parking? Or are students parking there? We know that, these posts look like they can handle a fender bender. But, I'm just wondering about like potential damage, what happens in that regard?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do driver's ed underneath this thing, so everybody will learn. No, in fact, we have that conversation today, actually. The post itself, we're gonna raise it between 2 to 3 feet higher than the ground level, so that it becomes a little bit of bumper. But at the same time is that where we actually, if we look at the layout, we actually created a 2 feet buffer zone between the parking space. It's like a double loaded parking, but there's 2 feet in it. The footing itself is about 3 feet. But we are going to put in that 2 feet gap in area, and the concrete will come out 2 to 3 feet higher, so that you can tap it a little bit, but you won't hit it and knock it over, kind of thing.
Got it. More damage to the car, less damage.
I think they will learn after a couple of times.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Or Nicole, where's Nicole? Yes, okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
You too. All right, let's move on to bathrooms. Review bids for restroom improvement at Nathan Hale and West Rocks. Refer the following to the Common Council for action. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Pat Munger, Construction Company, Inc. for the Nathan Hale and West Rocks Middle School restroom renovations for a total not to exceed $578,000, account noted. And B, authorize building management to issue change orders on contract for a total not to exceed $57,800, account noted. Do I have a motion, please? Mr. Huberman, thank you. Alan, or
This is a
Joanne.
Joanne show.
All right.
Yeah,
Good
he's
luck,
passing
Joanne.
this one on.
I didn't mean to leave with the shops, but it's okay.
Yes, exactly. I was in charge for about 5 minutes. As Alan mentioned earlier, it was all approved in April of 2021 for the capital budget to do some improvements to the middle schools of Nathan Hale, West Rocks, and Roten. So some of those things, some of them were done. There wasn't the ability to do all of that in the short amount of time in a summer, so it was split up. And so we now have the opportunity this summer to finish up those 2 schools, Nathan Hale and West Rocks, and do some the project descriptions there of all the little things that would be done in these bathrooms. So we have put it out to bid. We do have a low bidder. We met with that low bidder. We actually had we had 8 bids in, which was phenomenal. We were excited about that. And it's for about 51 restrooms that both schools are very excited about. So I've been in there quite often, and we're working with Richard at Gill & Gill and have gone over all of those repairs with the Munger Construction Group.
And this will be done this summer, correct?
Correct. So from June 26th is their first day. They're able to work on it, and will be done mid-August.
Great. Questions, comments? Mr. Burnett?
Thank you. Quick question. I mean, have we, I'm assuming we've contacted the Board of Education to see if there's any planned summer school activities at these 2 schools, and how would, not those activities, they would not have access to the restrooms, I'm assuming, while construction going on. How is that going to work?
I'm going to coordinate with the schools on which areas they're going to be in, and we're not going to take all of them down at both schools at the same time. They do have enough staff to do a significant amount at the same time, but I will keep in mind, obviously, that there are still activities going on, and hopefully working with one of the staff members. We haven't designated someone in the school yet, but that will be my responsibility to make sure that we're working around those activities.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, unanimous. Thank you. Keeping with the bathroom theme, to City Hall first floor bathroom. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rillick, to execute an agreement with HV Contractor Corporation for the City Hall first floor restroom refurbishment project for a total not to exceed $77,000. Account noted. B, authorize the Office of Building Management issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $7,700. Account noted. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett, thank you. Alan.
Yeah, North City Hall was renovated back in 1986, 7. So that's what, I don't know, 30 years, whatever it is, 35 years, whatever it is. So we never actually done anything in the bathroom. We never changed the partition. What we did was, and some time ago, they had metal partitions. So probably around 8 years ago, we do a electrostatic painting, which is electronic, what's the word here? Electrons. You charge the panels into the car does, you electrically charge them, and so you spray it and the paint will get on it differently kind of thing. So whatever.
You got it.
So it sort of worked out pretty well for the last few years, but at this point we had to replace it because it's starting to get rusty again. We want to look at and also the sinks. The way it's designed back then is laminate, so there's delamination, and then we actually use some different things on it. But at some point, because the way the sink is, it sits on top, the water gets in and stuff like that. So what we're looking to do, the tile, generally speaking, is very good shape, so we're not wasting money and working on the tile. Basically, we're changing partitions and also the countertop. So we are focusing on the first floor because that's the floor that we get the most use. When you go in there, I think it's been maintained pretty well overall, but I think it's time to do those changes. So something that we requested for the last few years. We got some money this year, and we're looking to do this.
Questions? Barbara.
Yeah, I just have to comment. I just used the women's room a couple days ago, and I'm looking at the partitions. And I'm thinking, these really need some work. So I'm glad to see that that is happening. I will also point out that despite the fact that I think they need work, the middle school bathrooms really need work. So they don't. Our bathrooms don't look quite that bad.
Definitely not. Any other comments, questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor? And we lose Nicole? I mean, Heidi, no, there you go. Okay, unanimous, thank you. All right, so let's go back up to the school construction update.
That would be Mike and Dan.
Yeah, Mike and Dan, yeah.
Dan, can you share the presentation just so it doesn't interfere with the host here?
Yep, getting it up right now. 1 second. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep, thanks, Dan.
Yep, no problem.
Good evening, everyone. This is just the master schedule, which we go into more detail in the following slides on. And the first project as part of the list is the Cranberry School. So at this time, the construction manager, Newfield Construction, has the majority of the sheetrock up in the building, first and second floor. MEP rough-in has been completed in a lot of areas, and lighting and ceiling grid is being installed. At this time, the masonry on the outside of the building is
Hey,
nearly.
Mike, just so everybody knows, MEP.
Oh, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The masonry work on the exterior of the building is nearly complete. There's a couple corners and various areas that still need to be finished. Glass and the glass windows and storefront systems have been installed in a lot of areas. There's a couple more single windows that still need to be installed. The masonry veneer at the Learning Commons is completed, and the mason contractor is currently working on the stone veneer walls in the cafeteria. The flooring installation in the classrooms has begun, and many of the bathrooms have had their wall tile and floor tile installed as well. Also, just one thing to highlight, The construction team's been working very diligently to monitor the schedule of critical deliveries for the project. We have had some obstacles come across that have delayed some of the activities as part of the construction. But to this point, we've been able to, make minor adjustments in order to keep with the schedule. And this is kind of a fluent situation right now due to the availability of some of the parts and pieces. And it's something that we're tracking on a weekly basis, all of the critical items. And currently, as of today, everything's on schedule.
On schedule and on budget, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's just a couple photos. The photo to the left is that's the Learning Commons, where you see the scissor lift. In that photo, the contractor is working on finishing the glass and glazing system on that wall. And then the photo to the right is taken from the inside of the Learning Commons area, and you can see the final product with regards to the wood roof deck and exposed wood ceiling, as well as the MEP utilities that are coming into that space. They've all been painted and are basically finished at this time.
And you can see the stone veneer there, just so you guys know, it's really good looking inside. I mean, these are really nice touches. Everybody will see them at some point, but it's really nice.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Like every day when I drop my kids off to school, I am really, really impressed. And especially how fast they're doing everything. But the new stone that just went up is amazing.
Thank you, Kylie. I don't want to put it very, I do not want to put it lightly, but I think there are many challenges. I mean, it's just like the emergency generator is going to be delivered in October, but we figure a way to work with the contractor and manufacturer to get a temporary generator on site. There's also delivery electrical equipment and mechanical units are being delayed, but at the same time, each one of these, we kind of work behind the scene in negotiating and push and pull kind of thing to get them. And so we're still holding schedule. And what I asked the construction manager is to provide a confirmation by May 13th. And we will know for sure that we will deliver this project on time. Again, each one of these are challenges that we have to overcome. And so, so we are on schedule. And one thing we don't note on the in terms of contingency money, we haven't really spent too much of the owner contingency money. So the CM contingency is still holding very well. So financially, we don't show those numbers, but at some point we add those numbers on so you can see the overall project in terms of financially. I mean, those are earlier numbers, and I think we have a more informative number that we can put on the screen. One last thing is at some point, I think we will probably schedule a walkthrough, but with the committee to go through the building. So it's probably sometime in May or June, I think. I mean, unless the committee wants to look at it, now, but as we get further ahead, I think it would be a good time to look at it in probably May or June. So
yeah, Alan, we'll defer to you when you think it makes sense and it causes the least interference with the crew out there.
Very good.
Yeah, well, we can take a look at that. Last week there was around 100 workers on site every day, so it's a very busy period right now. So, but it should slow down a bit in May and June.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, moving into Norwalk High School. I apologize, my updates aren't as exciting as Mike's during the pre-construction phase. But as you recall, the design development drawings and specs were completed in December of last year. We've been actively working on the construction documents that will be issued in late July. I participate almost weekly with the design team as they continue to coordinate those construction documents with the different disciplines involved. After the documents are issued in July, there will be another estimate performed and then an estimate reconciliation to confirm that we are on budget. And then from there, we have plans to meet with the Office of School Construction Grants and Review in September for a pre-bid conformance review, the PCR, and that's the last meeting and review that we have with the state prior to going out to bid. And As far as community engagement, we continue to engage with the community. In the past month, we had scheduled and did meet with administration. The construction manager met with admin at Norwalk High School and P-TECH on March 9th to review the construction logistics plans for the job. Also, the architect prepared a presentation for the Norwalk High School and P-TECH School Governance Councils, and that took place on March 23rd to provide a design update on where we are with the project. The overall schedule in the middle of construction documents, the approvals, and then going out to bid late in the year. Construction starting late December into January of 2024. South Norwalk Elementary School design team, is in the design development phase. They're preparing those documents now and we'll be issuing them at the very end of April of this year. As an ongoing coordination effort with traffic, mobility, and parking, one of the concerns is the traffic in the area, sidewalks, etc. We do have a meeting on April 10th with them to review our preliminary traffic survey data from the traffic survey that was performed. The next meeting after that April issuance of documents and an estimate reconciliation, we will meet with the state again in June for a DDR review, design development review. And we've already had 2 community outreach events. First one had a small showing, the second a bigger showing, and we're hoping that on May 4th at our next event, there's a better attendance.
And I just want to add the one more item is that we are actually looking at some early bid packages. What it means that typically, I think the overall project will go out to bid, let's just say in late January kind of thing. So we are looking to advertise certain packages, demolition, site work, excavation, as well as potentially ordering of long lead items such as generators and electrical switches. Those are the ones that we consider the long lead time in today's construction industry. So we are looking to go for the state. In fact, the letter went out to the email went out to the state. I think it's yesterday or today from Jim Giuliano, requesting state consideration that possibly we can do some early packages so we can get that stuff in line earlier. So so there are some efforts there to really focus on getting this project started and complete on time.
Just we have a new image here. I know we have a recycled rendering for Norwalk High School, as there's not too much new to share. You've probably seen that before, but this is the first floor schematic design layout. And currently the schematic design showing a 2-floor building. And middle of design development, construction documents, and then construction starting April of 2024.
And maybe you can remind people when we go out to bid on this one.
So that would anticipating beginning of 2024 bid and GMP. And Alan just mentioned the potential early packages that would shift things a little bit and allow us to start the site work, demolition, and development ahead of time, since we will there's Corville Nursery on site through, I think, fall of this year. And then after that, the site will be vacant, allowing us to start work early if possible. And that's based on state's approval.
I'm sorry, is the plan to leave the buildings there until then? The ones that are, okay.
Yeah, Hatch and Bailey has actually formally give us the key already. We are holding $500,000 in escrow, so we have 30 days from a couple of days ago, well, last week, to make sure that the property is acceptable. There's no changes from the time that we purchased the property. So yeah, they have, and then the relationship throughout this process has been very professional and cordial with between the city and Hatch and Bailey. So it's a very good relationship and getting this like a better web deal completed with them.
Right. All right. Any questions or comments, Barbara?
Yeah, Alan, I'm just curious how the process and the discussion is going to the new Norwalk High School about the fields and practices for, students. I know we have to look at all kinds of different fields and coordinating all kinds of things. And I know that's going to take a really long time. So I'm just curious how that's going.
I will speak to that.
Okay,
I'm waiting for her to jump in.
Yeah,
That's one of
thanks,
one of the things I
Joanne.
asked
Yeah.
Joanne to be the lead person on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So yeah, that was as soon as I got here, that was my first conversation was with both Doug at Norwalk High and the athletic director at Brian McMahon. They had both had some conversations before I got there, and so I've been working all of that out with Doug mostly, and making sure that each one of the teams has a place to go, and working out all of those details for practices as well as games. And they're, obviously I believe the coaches all know, and I'm not sure how much they've talked to each of the students, but I do know we're working on some options for softball at this point too, for them to have a place to go for a while.
Great.
I
Yeah.
think for softball, I think we are originally we were looking at Cranberry School as a potential option, but I think that is going to be the real option for them. In fact, we actually included a bid package to put sod in so that we don't have to wait for the grass to grow. So, but I think the goal, assuming the Cranberry schedule holds, we should be able to put sod down late fall, because that's ideal, because you want to put it in so we give it some time to establish so they can use it in the springtime. So that is our current strategy for softball. And then me and Joanne has talked about reaching out to start conversation with on tennis. Because
Right,
that's
at
involved
Oak Hills.
a relationship with Oak Hills. I think they heard about it, but at the same time, we haven't formally requested for next year. So I think we have to understand the high school schedule, as well as because they have clay courts. The prep time, usually they prep it in late April or early May, I think it is. And but then with the tennis program starts earlier, so I think we need to work out those details and make sure that, again, we haven't formally requested Oak Hills Park Authority yet. But me and
I've been
Joanne
trying.
talking about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that's great. That's great. And what about, there was some talk about maybe upgrading the track right at City Hall. Is that still in the not being talked about? Okay.
No. We never talk about City Hall, because the reason being is that our previous conversation with Doug was that track in today's world has to be a
Right.
performance track. It can't be like the stone dust and things like that kind of thing. So, and also the configuration and all, I mean, the City Hall, it's not properly configured and things like that. So it has to be very specific in terms of competition. The only place we have is Brian McMahon. So I think Joanne, you can go into a little bit more, because okay, you go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that was our main concern, because there is only one track. And apparently the track coaches have already had a conversation with each other, which has been really helpful, that there's a lot of coordination and cooperation going on. But we talked about specific days that Norwalk High would want to go over there, and adjusting practice schedules accordingly. And sometimes they could even share the area. So Dan, right when I had gotten here, he had gotten some netting, and I'm going to be getting some netting for Brian McMahon for their end zones, because there's some holes and we need to do some repairs to make sure that it's safe for everyone, because we probably will be having more teams practicing at the same time.
Great.
Yeah,
Sounds like a great place.
I think the concern in the past was lacrosse.
Yeah,
Which
men's
is a spring
lacrosse.
sport,
Yeah.
men's,
Yeah.
right, more than women's, right? And
Right.
then how you can't really practice lacrosse, and track kids are running around kind of thing. So they work out a strategy in terms of scheduling and use with a women's lacrosse kind of thing to make it work somehow. I don't know the detail, but there's some challenges. Well, usually we go put like temporary netting along the length of the track. But based on their understanding of the scheduling and use, they don't need that anymore. They want to make sure the ends are protected. That's more important to them.
Right. Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
the
Good. It
public-
sounds like there's a lot of good collaboration and cooperation going on. And, you know,
Yes.
Doug Marquetti is just terrific.
He is wonderful. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks for that update.
No problem.
Did you think of putting the softball field at City Hall? I mean, fixing that one up a little bit?
I believe that baseball, like a JV play on that field already.
Oh,
They're
okay.
out there every day. I do know that.
Okay, I'll defer to you guys.
Yeah.
All right, anything else from anybody? Hearing nothing, over motion? To adjourn, Mr. Hoolman, thank you, all in favor? All right, everybody, thank you very much, thank you. Joanne, great
night.
job. You too.
Thank
Alan.
you. Thank you again.
Good night.
Bye-bye.